Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Business Innovators Radio. This is your host, Constant Taylor. Today, we have a very special guest on the show, and they're going to share some very exciting information with us. So, if you're looking to increase your personal and professional effectiveness in the area of sales, then you've come to the right place. Our special guest today is the legendary Tom Hopkins. Tom has been speaking professionally for over 40 years. The primary content that he speaks on is closing the sale, sales leadership, and becoming a better salesperson. Tom has spoken both nationally and internationally and is based out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Tom has written 18 books, including his newest called When Buyers Say No. Tom, it is a sincere privilege and a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Constant, and I'm thrilled to have a chance to share some ideas with you and your listeners.
Well, as I shared with you before the interview, this is a personal treat for me because the first book that I ever purchased on sale was your book on selling, and it had such an impact on me. So this is the highlight of my week, bar none.
Well, thank you.
I would like to start the show by asking you if you could tell the listeners a little bit about your business and how you help people in sales.
Well, after 8 years of full-time selling real estate, I set some records, and then they started asking me to teach what I did, and then I realized that what I did was what I said to people, and they started calling me a wordsmith, and then I started writing my books, and then now, of course, I'm on the road every week doing a seminar somewhere in the world, wherever they have salespeople. And, of course, that's kind of been my life for over 40 years, and it's just been a great experience to teach these fabulous people in the field of sales and marketing how to make more money and have a better life.
Excellent. I know that one of the things that struck me with reading your books was authenticity, is that when I was reading the content, I never at any time figured, okay, this person is... there was nothing, your techniques, there's nothing sleazy in it. It's straight, excellent selling solutions.
Well, thank you. And I really tried, Constant, to always make that a critical part of anything I did, where it couldn't come across as if it's a gimmick, it's sleazy, it's high pressure, it's aggressive, because I really found over the years I didn't sell like that to set records in sales, so I sure couldn't teach people to do anything like that. So thank you for that input.
And yes, absolutely. Now, how do you go about engaging and assisting people who, outside of the book, if you're in a one-on-one or if you're doing seminars, what principles, what techniques do you use to help them in closing the sale?
Well, first of all, many people don't understand what closing the sale really is all about. And you can't understand it and really grasp it until you've yourself done it, or, again, had a master trainer who has set records give you their input on what you do. And the closing of the sale, many people feel it goes at the end of a presentation. And my humble opinion is that from the moment you meet a person, the closing of the sale is beginning, as to bringing down their defense barriers, as to asking them enough questions to where they relax and are comfortable with you, then letting you, of course, present or demonstrate your product or service. And then, of course, minor closes, which are getting what we call minor yeses or little agreements. And then, of course, it just builds momentum till the end result is they're thrilled with the exchange of their money for the benefits of the product or service you offer.
Okay. I was watching a video of you recently, and you talked about the D's that were important in in being successful in sales? Most people think that it's one D, but it's actually another D. Could you discuss that?
Well, that's right on, Constant, because for years when I was a new trainer, I used to say the biggest D necessary for success is burning desire. You must have the desire. And I taught that. And then all of a sudden, I started analyzing people who I had either trained or knew of in sales, and I came to the realization that it is a D word, but it's not the word desire, it's the word discipline. Because my experience taught me that if a person has a burning desire but doesn't have the disciplines of business, the disciplines of success, they won't do the things necessary to get the things they desire. So the real D word is discipline yourself to do the things necessary to achieve your short-term and long-term goals, both financially, emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
It makes a lot of sense. I know that the people that I have studied, the rock stars, they do a lot of things that are not very exciting. They're actually very boring and tedious. But that discipline, taking the discipline to do those monotonous things day in and day out, a lot of them the same way, almost mechanically, is what I have discovered with successful people to manifest. What do you think about that?
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I don't care who the person is. Tiger Woods, for example, when he comes out to our course, he hits more balls on the practice tee than all of us that aren't decent golfers. And here again, he'll stand there 4 or 5 hours and hit golf balls where here's number one or usually number one in the world doing more practice to do his job better. And so there's an example of the people that are the most successful do the things that most other people won't do.
Now, when saying that you want this, like it's like desire. People say, I desire to be a 7-figure earner in sales, and then actually having the discipline is something else. Having the discipline having the desire to have the discipline and actually having the discipline is actually two different things also. How does someone develop discipline that does not have it?
Well, this is not easy because if a person has not been disciplined, in a way I had a very strong upbringing as far as my father. Then my managers that I went to work for in real estate were strong leaders. And it's hard to become a strong leader if you haven't had one to emulate. So that's one reason I teach people. Constant, one of the keys is to find mentors, people who have walked the path of success. Then you have to emulate and do the things they do. It's almost like, I could never teach you to play a decent game of golf because I'm not a good golfer. But if you were to play with Butch Harmon, who, of course, is one of the greatest golf teachers in the world, he could look at everything you're doing, pick it apart, help you rebuild the fundamentals of your swing, and at least help you be a decent or good golfer. But again, it comes back to finding the people that can teach you what to do and say so that you then have the disciplines that they have to build your business.
What adversity really sticks out in your mind over your career, and how did you overcome that?
Well, no one likes to be rejected, and part of selling is going after business and knowing you're going to get told no. And I think the reason my new book, When Buyer Says No, is being so well accepted is that's the 2 letters that scared the heck out of most people in selling. I had to overcome my first fear of rejection and then my fear of failure, and I worked on that. I made it a game. I just pretended that when anybody met me, if they said no, it wasn't me. The timing was wrong. They were rejecting the proposal and not me as a person. And of course, I had to do what I didn't want to do, which is talk to more people, build momentum, because the number of activity contacts will determine the productivity at the end of the year.
Developing thick skin, is that something that can be developed, and how do you go about doing that?
Well, I think you can develop a thicker skin. You've got to realize that the more risk in life you take, the greater the rewards you can get. The people that are, let's say, working on a 9-to-5 job where they're very secure on a weekly paycheck, they will, of course, hopefully reach their goals. But if they give up the paycheck and say, I'm not getting paid unless I have paid for my skills or my abilities, then, of course, I think the real abundance comes to those who give up what they've got to get what they want.
Tell me about an event in your mind that sticks out where you really made an impact on the group or the audience that you were speaking to.
Well, golly, let's see. I've had almost 5 million people take my seminar, and there are many stories. I have a letter right here in front of me of a young man who got into the field of sales at 18, and he earned $2 million in commissions by the time he was 21, which is unheard of. And yet this young man followed every principle. He did everything that, again, I asked him to do in my teachings. And again, it's finding the mentor and then doing what the mentor says to develop the disciplines to achieve your goals.
The landscape of the principles have not changed in selling. I'm sure you would agree. The mechanisms, the tools that we use have changed. You know, back in the day, we didn't have electronic CRM systems like Salesforce.com. Social media, we didn't have Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn to connect us with our prospects. How has that impacted the landscape, and what's your opinion on the new technologies?
Well, first of all, I think you have to be much more sophisticated in the art of selling than we had to be in the past, because your consumer in general is much more educated, has access to the internet and all the things you said to have knowledge when you meet them. And so I think you've got to be better than we used to have to be, but you also have to be technically very sound, understanding all the avenues they can go to get information so that you're up to speed where they are intellectually when you're doing your presentation and so forth.
One of the biggest challenges that I had in sales was having the time to sell. Many times there would be somewhere between 30 to 50% of my time doing paperwork and other administrative things. What is your advice to an organization and an individual that's faced with those types of things?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, we all have the same amount of time in a day, 86,400 seconds. No one has any more, no one has any less. But people that seem to be most productive, they live by a couple of rules. They try to do the things that are the least important early in the morning and get them done. But then, let's talk paperwork. I used to be in there very early in my office, and there's no phones ringing. It's before most of the fellows even walked in, and I would get my paperwork done first. But then, as you start increasing your income, another success fundamental is when you're making enough money, you must hire people to do the things that keep you from making the money. And you must delegate authority to others. I might have been one of the first real estate agents to have their own full-time assistant whose whole job was once I closed the sale, got the check, they handled the follow-up, the paperwork, the details, so I was free to go out and do where most of the income is earned in the street of sales, showing properties and making sales.
Mm-hmm. With the last 60 seconds that we have, what message would you like to leave with the listeners? Message of inspiration, message on general sales? Well,
every day, be thankful to God that you are living in the United States, the free enterprise capitalistic country that everyone in the world envies. I'm leaving this week for China to do a tour in their country. And of course, they're right now having a few challenges, but I will say this, be proud to be in this country, be proud to be an American, and let people know that you love what you do. And if you're in sales, just keep falling deeper in love with the fact you're serving your fellow man with benefits and do a better job every day.
Very powerful information and words of wisdom. Now, if the listeners would like to get in contact with your organization and utilize your services, how can they do that?
Well, they could just go to tomhopkins.com, and I'm in, of course, Arizona. Chandler is the office. My home is in Scottsdale, and they can get a hold of us, and we have a list of all of our books and CDs and DVDs, and they're more than happy to look at them. And, of course, there'll be a customer service number where they can order them or go on the Internet or Amazon. Most of our materials are available there, too. So they can reach us, and I so hope that I can help them achieve a higher degree of success.
Tom, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been a true privilege and pleasure for me, and I know for the listeners as well.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.